You know, I'm thinking about Mark Carney meeting with Donald Trump earlier today in the White House, and all of those people who voted for Mark Carney thinking, elbows up, elbows up. He's going to go in there. He's going to show Trump who's boss. Nobody pushes Canada around. We're not for sale. No 51. Wait until you see some of the video that I have to play for you. Now, you're not going to see that on the left-wing corporate media. They wouldn't show you that because it's embarrassing. And I'm certainly hoping that everybody who voted Liberal in the election last week is rethinking their decision. Buyer's remorse, maybe, after only a week, because this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sure there's a lot of people who could argue, well, it's his first chance to sit down with Trump, a real powerful world leader, and talk things over. But this guy has been around the world as the UN Special Climate Envoy for the past 6 or 7 years. He's been the CEO of Brookfield Investment for a couple of years, up until January or December, whatever. He's met with high-powered people for his entire professional career. And yet he looked like a squeaking little mouse today in the White House with Donald Trump. All that's coming up. Doug Ford pipes in about Alberta. All right. Have you seen any video or anything out there that remotely resembles Danielle Smith promoting separatism? No. As a matter of fact, she's come out and said, as a matter of fact, I would like to keep Alberta within a sovereign Alberta or an independent Alberta within a united Canada, something like that. And yet the attacks are starting. Doug Ford piped up today. Naheed Nenshi piped up today. The Saskatchewan NDP is piping up too against our guest Thursday night. This coming Thursday, Nadine Ness of Unified Grassroots is going to join the show. She is developing a petition there for independence. And it's already been discussed in the Saskatchewan legislature. It's incredible what is going on. And, you know, so many people were down in the dumps after the election last week. The Conservatives had their first caucus meeting today. Yes, Pierre Poilievre was there. Who's going to be the House leader? That's all coming up in the show tonight, which is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Crest toothpaste to SilverSeuticals toothpaste. First, we're starting out with Crest. It's a classic, it's an original. It's what I've used most of my life. But that being said, it does have its problems. First off, the consistency is so weird and thick, and I get it's a paste, but it really doesn't spread that well. And I must also say that I'm not in love with the taste. I get toothpaste isn't supposed to taste good, but why shouldn't it? But that being said, it does get the job done. Next, we have SilverSeuticals. They have 3 flavors, but today we're going with Bubbleberry. And already it smells so good. So I'm excited to see what this tastes like. The consistency is also a lot smoother, and I must say it spreads way nicer in your mouth.
This literally tastes like fruit bubblegum.
Yeah, this toothpaste was pretty good. I actually went in for seconds, and it's infused with nano silver, so it helps remineralize your teeth and keep them fresh throughout the day.
100% go with SilverSeuticals.
And here's the results. What's your favorite toothpaste?
CanadaNanoSilver.com. 3 flavors that toothpaste comes in. There's the Bubbleberry the kid was talking about. By the way, call 204-808-9292, CanadaNanoSilver.com. Also comes in cinnamon and spearmint. I just brushed my teeth like 20 minutes ago with the cinnamon, and it's awesome. Again, website, all the great products are there. You can check them out for yourself. CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. Hello, Sean O'Vision in Prince Edward Island watching on X tonight. Hello, Michael in Brampton. Hello, Carla, Calgary. Amanda, keep pounding, baby. Oh, by the way, Devon Harper was on with Ken tonight on Manitoba Stronger Together. Yes. So I'll try and see if I can find that video and put it up on the page for you all to watch a little bit later on. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Gloria, Gloria, watching in Winnipeg. Mo is watching in Somerset, Manitoba. Hello, Jeannie, watching in sunny Calgary. Nancy's watching in Cape Breton. Judy in Saskatchewan. Hello, Joy in Glenborough, Manitoba. Mireille's watching in Lacombe. Hello, Lulu. Kev from Canada Nano Silver. He's watching tonight from just north of the city. Jonathan, how are you, my friend? Lucette in Saint Jean Baptiste. Carrie's watching in Alberta. Vicky in Nova Scotia. Hello, Tess watching in Niagara, Ontario. And over to Rumble we go. Who's on Rumble tonight? Mommy's Little Monster, The Mouth of the South, Nana Sue, Uniacke, Patricia, Susie Q57. Hello, World Peace. Hunch, Paul 3226, Lexus 400H. All you guys, thank you for being here. And don't forget, whatever platform you happen to be watching on tonight, do not forget to like and share. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. Last night's show with Keith Wilson, KC, senior attorney, very experienced, very knowledgeable, out of Alberta, drew, I think at our peak last night, 3,300 live viewers, which is absolutely incredible. And that was only across 2 platforms. We add the 500 or 600 live viewers we get normally on Rumble. We're talking about 400 live views, and for good reason. That man knows exactly what he's talking about. And if you missed that show last night, it's available on all of the usual socials and, of course, shadowdavis.com on the extension tonight. For you all access Nighthawks, we're going to go deep into the world of Operation Mockingbird. And before we begin anything tonight, Katie Pasitny of Universal Ostrich Farms in British Columbia dropped a message this morning, and I would like you to hear it here.
We found out just this other Friday that Udachina landfill is had accepted a contract from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to bury our birds. So collect or bury a pit, get a pit dug, and get ready to accept the carcasses of our ostriches. So it's kind of, in a way, has some arrogance behind it with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, especially while we're waiting a verdict. But then, just goes to show you too that the overreach, and you don't need a verdict for them to come onto the property and claim that they're working or acting in public health and safety. And so yeah, it's quite alarming. We started a series of videos that are posted on Facebook, and I think that they're going to be a really good educational tool for everybody. So these are pieces of their policy that a lot of farmers and a lot of individuals are absolutely not aware of. One of the main big ones, and I'll touch on it here, is that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency doesn't even actually need to test your animals in order to kill them. They can enter your property And by their policy, they have the right to euthanize or cull and kill all of your animals based off suspicion. So, I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean for our farmers and our agricultural sector that is the backbone to our economy and to our very survival and our food security? It's just something that we definitely need to be aware of. There's going to be more of those. Did you know? I think it's going to be really good for people to start to understand the policy and be aware of the organizations that our very taxpayer dollars go to supporting. The more you start to think about it too, you're like, how can our taxpayer dollars go to pay these very organizations that have absolutely no accountability? They are immune to, you can't sue them. They're, in some way and form of fashion, they're untouchable. And so our taxpayer dollars go to fund these organizations, the very organizations that are targeting our agricultural sector. And then you think they're attacking our agricultural sector, our farmers. And then our farmers, if they want to put up any fight, now we're using our money again and our taxpayer dollars to fight them, fighting us. It's a vicious circle, and I really think that a lot of awareness can be brought to that, how absolutely wrong that is. And organizations such as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency that holds so much power with no accountability cause a grave concern.
Yeah, interesting. And by the way, no ruling from the court yet in British Columbia. By the way, fantastic job. I want to send some kudos out to Jim Kerr and to Colin Big Bear, who have been there supporting. There's people who are staying in their own campers and tents even around the farm to keep an eye on things. They've both been dropping some very, very good messaging on their social media sites. So thanks to those two guys in particular and everybody who has been rallying to support Universal Ostrich Farms in British Columbia. Interestingly, I was out for a walk this morning very early, and I live near a creek. So I went for a walk down by the creek. There's this great walking path, goes for a couple of miles, maybe even more. I never usually go that much longer on that path. But anyway, geese everywhere. 100 geese, 200 geese everywhere. Just crazy. All over the walking path. There's goose crap all over the place. They're in the creek itself. They're laying in the sun. They are close to humans. And I thought to myself, isn't it interesting that all of these geese, and like I say, a couple hundred, are so close to humans they can make contact with this H5N1 scare of a pandemic, this bird flu pandemic coming up. Where's CFIA? Don't you think they should be standing on this path near this creek with shotguns, taking them all out? Aren't they worried about these wild geese perhaps having the bird flu and causing a problem, it jumping to humans? No, they have to go pick on an isolated ostrich farm in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia. Why? Because they're going after farmers. And if they win this case, they might be coming after your friends in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario. Next. CFIA, as Katie points out, is a very powerful organization for some reason with absolutely next to zero oversight. So it's something that we have to watch on our own, sadly. Donald Trump and Mark Carney had a meeting at the White House. It was this morning. They met behind closed doors. And then, of course, as is the habit at the White House, Trump brings the world leader out to meet with the press, and they have a joint press conference. And we've got a few clips from this press conference. Here is Donald Trump doing most of the talking in this first one. Watch.
We want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada. And we put tariffs on cars from Canada.
And by the way, Trump keeps repeating this rhetoric over and we don't want cars. We don't want their oil. We don't want their milk and dairy. But look at how uncomfortable Mark Carney is here with his elbows down.
At a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz.
Yeah, okay. So the next one here is Trump continuing on that little tirade, trashing Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland without mentioning her by name.
From what pact?
USMCA.
No, it's fine. It's there. It's good. We use it for certain things. It's there. We have the USMCA is a good deal for everybody. I won't say this about Mark, but I didn't like his predecessor. I didn't like a person that worked for. She was terrible, actually. She was a terrible person. And she really hurt that deal very badly because...
Okay, so wait. Hold on just a second. Look at Carney here. He's kind of squirming a bit. He's talking about Chrystia Freeland. Obviously, Trump can't remember her name, just the fact that he didn't like her at all. Let's remember that Mark Carney is godfather to one of her kids, maybe the others as well. I don't know, but they have a very close relationship, Carney and Freeland. So watch Carney fidget.
She tried to take advantage of the deal, and she didn't get away with it. You know what I'm talking about. But we had a bad relationship having to do with the fact that we disagreed with the way they viewed the deal, and we ended it. We ended that relationship pretty much.
All right. Now we're going to get into the Diddy thing and Mike Myers in just a second, because I saw you guys writing it down in the comments. Yeah, I got that coming up. Relax. We're going to get there. But just remember, at the end of March, during the election campaign, what Mark Carney said, and this blew everybody's heads off across the country when he said this.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
Remember, we were all like, why? You're an unelected prime minister? You've been appointed to the position, essentially. You've been selected by probably the World Economic Forum and, the shady characters who run the world in the background. And you have the balls to sit there in front of the entire country and say the relationship that has been fostered over the last 120, 130 years is over? How freaking dare you? But hey, the elbows up crowd, right? Whoa, yeah, he's going to take care of us. Okay, so watch Carney and Trump. This is Carney now talking, but only at the behest of Trump.
I'd like to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat, actually. But thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here. With the help of my colleagues here, I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can go. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. President,
Yeah,
I'm on the edge of my seat, actually.
That was me. That was me. I'm just trying to go back to the part here where you've been a transformational president with a relentless focus on the American worker, right? I love you so much.
But thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected with my colleagues here, with the help of my colleagues here. I'm going to spread the credit to transform Canada with a similar focus on the economy, securing our borders, again on fentanyl, much greater focus on defense and security, securing the Arctic and developing the Arctic. And the history of Canada and the U.S. is we're stronger when we work together, and there's many opportunities to work together. And I look forward to, addressing some of those issues that we have, but also finding those areas of mutual cooperation so we can move forward.
That's great. Very nice. Thank you very much. It's a very nice statement.
What happened to Canada's relationship with the United States is over. You've been a transformational president with a relentless focus on the American worker, and I want to thank you. Transformational president. Wow. Our friend Dave Freedom put something together today. You may have seen this flying around social media already. Watch this.
Lewis, how's it going so far? Pretty well, I think.
I think we need some major sucking up.
Very well, sir. You're not only handsome, but a powerful man. I could see the second you walked in here, you were someone to reckon with.
For your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker.
Policy. Yes, sir. Not me. Her. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. How are we doing, ladies?
Now, I thought, I'm going to get hit with copyright all over the place today, but I don't care. I thought the morning meeting probably would have gone something more like this.
You want to see me?
Yeah, Tony.
About what?
About what? To apologize.
Oh.
So. I said some things and I did some things that I'm sorry for. It's not going to happen again.
What'd you do?
I was rude. I'm sorry, Tony. Okay?
Anything else?
Right? I'm sorry. I was rude. Please accept my apologies. Anything else? All right, let me bring this thing up here. It's very interesting. The surprise A-list actors named at Sean Diddy Combs' trial. His trial technically started yesterday with jury selection. And these A-list actors' names were brought up during that process. It's still going on. It's going to take up to 6 weeks, this trial, apparently. Several surprise A-list actors and singers had their names dropped during jury selection. This is from mensjournal.com. On the first day of Sean Diddy Combs' trial in New York, according to People, the stars mentioned included actors Michael B. Jordan. I'm not really familiar with him. I think maybe he was in a superhero movie once or something. And Mike Myers. Oh, wait a minute. Michael B. Jordan was Creed, wasn't he? In those Creed movies with Sylvester Stallone. But Mike Myers. Elbows up, dude. Yeah, that Mike Myers. And then rappers Kid Cudi and Kanye West, interestingly. However, none of them, I want to be absolutely clear here, is accused of any criminal wrongdoing in connection with this high-profile case. Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child and rapper Young Miami were also brought up in court. They are also not accused of any criminal wrongdoing. So, Mike Myers, Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein, Mark Carney. Interesting.
Carney was caught with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking sidekick. Prince Andrew, Epstein's client, paid for a lavish party for Mark Carney at Buckingham Palace. And now it turns out Mark Carney's wife's family is in Epstein's notorious black book, 7 numbers, 2 addresses. We have questions.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here? I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
Mike Myers, what are you doing here? Well, you were in my little book, man, and I'm in yours. All these people are connected. All of these people are connected. Of course, it could just be a coincidence also. Mark Carney got snippy with the media after his little presser with Donald Trump. And here he is getting snippy.
Say, there is a difference between the president's comments around Canada becoming a 51st state as a wish versus a reality. You told him that Canada was not for sale. But many Canadians are offended and deeply angered by the fact that he keeps repeating this comment. So have you asked the president to stop calling Canada the 51st state?
Yes. Today.
Okay, specifically, what did you ask him?
Exactly what you just said.
But what words did you use? How did you ask him?
Look, I gave you an answer. Do you have a follow-up?
I'll say. What was his answer?
Well, we'll look. I don't know. He's the president. He's his own person. I would go back to showing the difference between a wish and a reality. We're very clear. I've been very clear publicly, consistently. I've been very clear in private. It was clear again in the Oval Office. Would be clear throughout. The president, he understands that we're having a negotiation between sovereign nations and that we will only pursue and accept a deal that's in the best interests of Canada, not just in the short term, but in the medium and long term for Canada.
Yeah. Sure you will. You're a transformational president with a very hard focus on the U.S. worker. Does Mark Carney actually think he's going to get anywhere with Donald Trump? I mean, I'm sure Trump likes him fine. He's milquetoast, Mark Carney is. He doesn't really have much of a personality, does he? But don't think for 1 second that Donald Trump doesn't know about the things that Carney was saying about him during the election campaign. Don't think for 1 second that Donald Trump doesn't know that Mark Carney said, the relationship between Canada and the United States is over. And he's going to hold that against him because Donald Trump, I think, has got a pretty thin skin when it comes to that kind of thing. Plus, he likes to be the one in charge. He may give Canada a few nuggets. But I will bet you that Mark Carney capitulates on the dairy thing, on the supply dairy chain thing, all of that stuff, softwood lumber. Carney is going to capitulate to everything Trump wants to try and get rid of those tariffs. I predict it. And then they're going to try and spin it as some kind of positive thing, the Liberals and the NDP and all of the lefties in Canada and the left-wing corporate media, all of them are going to try and spin it into some magical thing that Mark Carney achieved for Canadians, even though we'll know better. What about the Conservatives? What are they up to? Well, they had a caucus meeting, their first since the election today. Pierre Poilievre was there. Yes, he's still a member of the caucus. He's just not in the House of Commons. That is yet to come. Andrew Scheer has been selected as the interim House leader for the Conservative Party when Parliament resumes at the end of May. And he was on with Vashi Kapelos of CTV today. Quickly.
That our caucus has chosen me to be the parliamentary leader, if you will, the person who will have the for procedural reasons will sign the forms and do the things in the House until our leader Pierre Poilievre rejoins us. We're thrilled that we have a path forward to that. One of our colleagues, Damien Kerr from Battle River Crowfoot has very selflessly offered a path for Pierre to rejoin us in the House of Commons. So for the very short term, just for a few weeks, I'll be fulfilling the duties that need to be done by someone from the House of Commons.
So do I take from that you anticipate Mr. Poilievre will be back in the House of Commons come fall? And in the interim, does that mean you're officially the leader of the opposition in the House of Commons? And will you do things like, for example, occupy Stornoway, the official residence for the official opposition leader?
Well, you know what? That's a stupid question. You know, for all of the celebrating of Vashi Kapelos from all of the independent conservative creators on YouTube and other platforms who absolutely love her. Oh, she held him to account. That's a dumb question. And she's asked several dumb questions in the past as well. She's also a great big believer in man-made climate change. So let's not give Vashi Kapelos too much credit. The reason I'm playing this clip is because Andrew Scheer's on it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. We have a leader of the party, and we expect that Mr. Carney will be true to his word. He has promised to call a by-election quickly so that Pierre can rejoin us in the House and lead us from the chamber. He still remains leader of the party and the movement. He's got the support of caucus. He's got the support of 8 million Canadians who voted Conservative and our movement all across the country. So for the next few weeks, for procedural reasons, there are some things that require someone to do who has that seat in the House of Commons. I'll be taking, fulfilling those duties, but he's still the leader of the party. As to other things, these are early minutes after our caucus concludes, so I might not have all the answers you might be looking for, but going forward, I can tell you that we're in good spirits. We had a good discussion, and there's definitely going to be a lot of excitement when Pierre rejoins us in the chamber and again leads us from the House.
I may have been mistaken when I said that was a dumb question. It could have been that she was trying to sow some kind of dissension in the Conservative Party. Oh, you're going to move into Stornoway? You're the leader now? I mean, she knows better than that. She is a veteran journalist, a veteran reporter. She's worked at all three of the major news networks in this country. She knows better than to ask a dumb question like that. So what was she really trying to do? Perhaps she was trying to give her viewers the impression that there's some sort of rift going on in the Conservative Party right now, and they're trying to depose Pierre Poilievre as leader. Nothing could be further from the truth. They got, an extra 25 seats going forward? They're doing well. They got 8 million votes across the country. And the only reason the Liberals are in power right now, Mark Carney, is because of the NDP self-imposed collapse, which I believe was intentional, but that's a whole other story. Here's a couple of other stories that people have been following that they've asked me to bring up. And I say, yeah, absolutely. This is a big one here that nobody is talking about. From the gunblog.ca, Liberals, if you're a gun owner, look out. This is not just going to be in a couple of places. Eventually, it's going to be everywhere. But I believe this is a pilot project, as they call it. Liberals pay for police to confiscate guns from PAL holders, starting with Winnipeg and Cape Breton. Canada's Liberal Party-led administration paying for police to confiscate firearms from government-licensed gun owners, advancing its attacks on honest citizens. The Liberals are paying for police in Winnipeg and Cape Breton to help with the planning, coordination, control, and administration of the seizures, according to government documents. Winnipeg will get $2.8 million. Cape Breton gets $103,013 under agreements that started in February of March this year and run until the end of March of 2026. The Liberals also agreed to pay $10.7 million to 117 for-profit organizations, possibly businesses, related to the confiscation effort. Who might they be? It's unknown how many other municipalities, police, and businesses across Canada are taking taxpayer money to support the crackdowns. The Gun Blog says, to the best of our knowledge, they are the first to report these details. Nobody else will, by the way. Why it matters, well, I am, but you know what I mean when I say that, left-wing corporate media. Hiring police to support or execute the Liberal attacks risks fueling anger at law enforcement. Check. Something bad is going to happen with this. Since many officers own guns personally, it means they'll be rounding up cherished property from their families, friends, neighbors, and colleagues, or maybe from themselves. Sending police to go after honest citizens means robbers, rapists, kidnappers, and carjackers will have greater freedom to do their work, assisting Liberal policies that promote violent crime. Yesterday marked the 5th anniversary of the Liberals unleashing one of the largest crackdowns on honest citizens by any democracy in history outside of war. The Liberals have criminalized hundreds of thousands of government-licensed firearm owners since May of 2020, prohibiting them from buying, selling, transporting, or using roughly 2,500 models of rifle and shotgun. The Liberals are struggling to execute the seizures they had wished to complete 3 years ago. They even went to Canada Post and said, hey, what about it? You guys go to people's houses every day. What about this little extra chore? We'll make it worth your while. They're thwarted by massive grassroots and institutional opposition, plus logistical and financial obstacles. The March 2026 end date for the police grants further suggests the Liberals abandoned their newest deadline of October of this year for the crackdown. And the gunblog.ca says they're not aware of anyone who intends to surrender their gear. Again, this could be pretty ugly, and here are the government documents that prove this story is absolutely 100% factual, right here. Those are the contracts. There's another rumor flying around. Mark Carney, as you know, wants to get rid of all combustion engines by 2035, and there's a government program in place right now that he hasn't removed and probably won't, because as we know, he's a net zero zealot. To decrease the amount of new car sales that can be combustion engines. It's incremental. It goes from now until 2035. I think it's 80%. Then it goes down to 70% the next year. You get the idea. Until finally, by 2035, nobody is going to be able to buy combustion engines. So this rumor has been flying around now. Canada bans pre-2000 cars window tints. Now, this was brought to me by a friend earlier today, and I thought I would check on it. So not that I believe too much in these fact-check things, but if you just look at this from a logistical point of view, Parliament hasn't sat in almost a year. It's coming, well, not a year, but they haven't been effective in over a year is what I'm saying, because they were absolutely filibustered during their last parliamentary session and then prorogued on January 6th. So this would need to be with parliamentary approval for the Liberals to get away with doing this. Did Mark Carney announce that Canada will ban pre-2000 cars, window tints, lifted trucks? Let's take a look at the viral video. Let's not. So somebody called Vince Langman and disrespected trucker online said this. And so far from what we can see, and I've checked it all, there is absolutely no way that this can be happening. But don't be fooled, because the Liberals are still planning to remove combustion engines from our country. unless there is a massive grassroots backlash. All right, so let's get to the Alberta and Saskatchewan separation story. And again, if you missed the show with Keith Wilson, KC, last night, he is all for it. He answered that question I asked him at the end of last night's show. He tells us all about how it could happen, what needs to happen to get there. So much information in last night's show. So if you missed it, go back and watch it. It's available on all the socials and, of course, shadowdavis.com. And tonight on the extension, we're going to go deep into Operation Mockingbird. And Dr. Naomi Wolf gave a very, very interesting speech at a university just a couple of days ago, talking about new information found, released by Pfizer, regarding their C-19 vaccines. Doug Ford can't seem to keep his big fat mouth shut and out of other people's business. Here he is today talking about Alberta.
Forget about political stripes, by the way. We have a prime minister down there, and he's going to be sitting down, and he's going to give it everything he can. This is a time to unite the country, not people saying, oh, I'm leaving the country, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You know, united we stand, divided we fall. Right. Okay, so Danielle Smith obviously has responded to this, and here is her response from Juno News. Let me just throw it up on the screen here. Smith tells Ford to butt out. Out of Alberta Independence Dialogue. As Isaac Lamoureux is the one who wrote this story from Juno News, so let's have a look at it. Danielle Smith told Doug Ford to mind his business when it comes to whether Albertans pursue independence. An independence referendum. Smith held a press conference today, day after she announced plans to send a negotiating team to Ottawa and create the Alberta Next Task Force to assert Alberta's sovereignty. I don't tell him how he should run his province. I would hope that he doesn't tell me how I should run mine, said Smith. But we have a very respectful relationship, and I certainly hope that continues. Really? That's what you call respectful? Despite telling Ford to butt out, Smith said the two premiers have a great friendship, although they don't agree on everything. In fact, I think we supported different people in the last federal election, she said, suggesting that Ford, despite being a conservative premier, might have voted for Carney. The Alberta premier was responding to comments Ford made earlier in the day targeting the independence movement in Alberta. Now, I have a clip here. I was telling you guys that this is going to happen. It's going to happen very soon. It's already happening. The pushback regarding Alberta separatism and Saskatchewan separatism, for that matter. Naheed Nenshi is the leader of the official opposition in Alberta, the NDP, and he spoke up today. With a bunch of lies, really, because Danielle Smith has said, like I said at the beginning of the show tonight, she said she would prefer that Alberta remain in a united Canada, right? She didn't even say a sovereign Alberta. Did she say independent? No, she says a strengthened Alberta within a united Canada. But of course, that doesn't stop the Marxists from lying.
Great nation is under threat from the outside, and we have a premier who is threatening this nation from the inside. Smith has spent years pushing policies and ideas that would rip Alberta out of Canada piece by piece. She's endorsed the so-called Free Alberta strategy. She passed a Sovereignty Act. She's actively dismantling the RCMP. She's trying to pull Albertans out of the Canada Pension Plan. She remains one of the only premiers who will not sign agreements with the federal government on things that matter to Albertans, that matter to their pocketbooks every day, like childcare and pharmacare and dental care. Being a proud Albertan means being a proud Canadian, and we will not allow Danielle Smith to take that away from us. Visit separatistsmith.ca. Sign the petition. Add your name to the list of people, of Albertans who are standing up for this country. We believe in Alberta, we believe in Canada, and we're not going anywhere.
Separatistsmith.ca? For real, Naheed? You know, I met him once. And an arrogant man. Danielle Smith brought up some points yesterday, and again, they were discussed on last night's show. And this part of the speech, she addressed Albertans yesterday.
And we only played a very short snippet from that speech on the show last night before Keith came on. So here's a little bit more of Danielle's address to Albertans yesterday.
We'll be taking steps to better protect ourselves from Ottawa. As a start, I will soon appoint a special negotiating team to represent our province in negotiations with the federal government on the following reforms requested by our province. We hope this will result in a binding agreement that Albertans can have confidence in. Call it an Alberta Accord, if you will. First, Alberta requires guaranteed corridor and port access to tidewater off the Pacific, Arctic, and Atlantic coasts for the international export of Alberta oil, gas, critical minerals, and other resources in amounts supported by the free market rather than by the dictates and whims of Ottawa. Every province in the country, other than Alberta and Saskatchewan, have coastal port access, and no province needs it more given the size and value of our resources. This will benefit all Canadians to the tune of trillions of dollars of economic activity, including billions for First Nations partners. Second, the federal government must end all federal interference in the development of provincial resources by repealing the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, the oil tanker ban, the net zero electricity regulations, the oil and gas emissions cap, the net zero vehicle mandate, and any federal law or regulation that purports to regulate industrial carbon emissions, plastics, or the commercial free speech of energy companies. These laws are destroying investment confidence and costing Canada and Alberta hundreds of billions in investments each year. They need to go. Third, the federal government must refrain from imposing export taxes or restrictions on the export of Alberta resources without the consent of the government of Alberta. Frankly, all provinces should be given that same respect for their resources. And fourth, the federal government must provide to Alberta the same per capita federal transfers and equalization as is received by the other three largest provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. We have no issue with Alberta continuing to subsidize smaller provinces with their needs, but there is no excuse for such large and powerful economies like Ontario, Quebec, BC, or Alberta to be subsidizing one another. That was never the intent of equalization, and it needs to end. If these points can be agreed to by the federal government, I am convinced it will not only make Alberta and Canada an infinitely stronger and more prosperous country, but will eliminate the doubts a growing number of Albertans feel about the future of Alberta in Canada.
All right, so I just saw a couple of posts. I was looking at some of your comments. If you don't mind, I was just kind of looking over there going, JJ thinks she's compromised. All right, so there's people that do, and I do sometimes wonder about some of the decisions that she makes. But then again, we don't really know that it's her making them. For example, the person that was hired to be the head of AHS last week is baffling. Danielle's recommendation for everybody to get jabbed for the measles last week, I thought was equally baffling. But again, we don't know if she's the one writing it on her social media or if there's somebody else doing it. What I believe is that there are still many members of the Jason Kenney cabinet, the Jason Kenney, the old school UCP, who are still involved in cabinet and in caucus in Alberta. And I think they're making her life difficult. If you guys ever saw that TV show with Kevin Spacey called House of Cards, you know what I'm talking about. And television shows, you know, they never do justice to the actual real truth. What goes on behind closed doors in politics is cutthroat, sometimes illegal, but nothing can be done about it because certain people have certain things on certain other people. And you got to try and play the game. Ever watch a season of Survivor and how diabolical that show is and the plans these people make? I'm not kidding when I say that. You've all worked at some point with other people, right? Have you ever noticed the politics of an office? For goodness sakes, it's terrible, right? All of a sudden, one day you're the most popular guy in the office or the workplace. Next day you come in and you're a dick because somebody said something somewhere, which probably was completely untrue or warped so badly that it made you look terrible. So not only do you have to
figure out what happened. You have to figure out how it happened, what was said. And that takes time. Now, some people say, I don't care about that stuff. And that's fine on a work site, a workplace. But when you're a politician and you're always under the microscope, you do have to care about that stuff. And you do have to try and nip it in the bud before it becomes a thing. And that's just the stuff that's going on in her own caucus, in her own cabinet. Never mind the stuff the NDP is going to be throwing at her. Never mind the stuff the NDP is going to be throwing at the sovereignty movement, not just in Alberta, but in Saskatchewan. Nadine Ness of Unified Grassroots is going to join the show on Thursday night. And Nadine is already facing some interesting opposition from the NDP. Nadine Ness of Unified Grassroots has been brought up in the Saskatchewan legislature already before she's even managed to really get this thing off the ground. It's hilarious. The Saskatchewan NDP, according to the Western Standard, pushes Mo to shut down Unified Grassroots petition for independence vote. There's Nadine right there. She was the star of the Freedom Train International with Jim Ferguson this past weekend. I happened to be on there as well, but Nadine really stole the show. Saskatchewan NDP is asking Premier Scott Moe to shut down an online petition calling for a referendum on leaving Canada, saying he's giving the independence movement a free pass at a volatile moment for national unity. The petition, again by Nadine and her Unified Grassroots organization, asks the province to negotiate new terms for Saskatchewan's relationship, whether inside Canada or as an independent nation. So she's not saying no to Canada. What she's saying is, if we can't come to a deal, then yeah, we should probably leave. Saskatchewan NDP jobs and economy critic Alina Young, NDP, said Monday the Premier's hesitation opens the door to Donald Trump's latest talk of turning Canada into the 51st state inside the legislature. Saskatchewan NDP Deputy Leader Vicky Mowat pressed the issue. Will the Premier call Nadine Ness today and ask her to stop trying to break up our country? They're scared of her. I think this is great. Again, Nadine's going to join the show on Thursday night. Deputy Premier Jim Reeder replied the province would not silence citizens. Whether we agree with their opinion or not, they have a right to voice it, he said. Members on this side are not interested in separation. So right now, nobody in the government of Saskatchewan is interested in separation. But will they go ahead and align with the opinion of the people? And will Nadine manage to get over 50% saying, yeah, we got to leave on a petition? The NDP says that answer is not good enough. They point to Ness's past access to the Premier when Mo spoke with her for an hour in 2021 amid public health concerns over the lockdowns. As evidence, separatists have influence inside the governing Saskatchewan party. The NDP, man, they flail their arms around, they scream, they yell, red-faced, lie. And this is what I mean when I say, oh man, this is going to happen. It's going to be awful ugly in Alberta and maybe even Saskatchewan for the next year. They will stop at nothing. These people are awful. Barely 6 months after nearly losing the election, that's not true. The Saskatchewan party is again kowtowing to the fringes of its base, said Young. That is a stunning failure of leadership. Ness responded to the Saskatchewan NDP attacks and told the Western Standard that of course they are. They don't like it that I'm giving people a voice. Well done, Nadine. Bravo. If it was up to the NDP, they would bring in the entire Liberal agenda on Saskatchewan, she went on to say. There's no difference between the natural resource destroying net zero Liberal agenda and the NDP. I'm going to give a voice to those wanting to stand between the NDP and their insane leftist agenda intent on destroying our province and our way of life. And it's true. She's right. They are the entity trying to bring more of Ottawa into our province. They don't want the people to have a voice. They want to rule over them instead of serve them. Again, Nadine Ness is going to be on the show on Thursday night. From the New Blue Party of Ontario. And this is something that you should pay very close attention to if you are in Ontario. I guess any other province in the country is going to be going through this as well. I know Manitoba is. This is straight out of the globalist playbook. This is something that our friend Maggie Hope Braun has been fighting against and traveling to different counties, townships, and municipalities across the country to try and awaken council members and mayors and reeves to what's actually going on. What kind of agenda is being input into their community? Is it necessary? Where are you getting your funding from? Ford's attack on local democracy, straight from the Liberal playbook. Again, from the New Blue Party of Ontario. Doug Ford's progressives have once again proven what we've been saying for years. They're nothing but an arm of the Liberals. Last week, Ontario's PC government reintroduced Bill 241, the Municipality Accountability Act, legislation that would hand Queen's Park unprecedented power to control, police, and even remove your locally elected municipal representatives. This bill is not about accountability. It's about centralized control and political censorship. What's in the bill? Number one, top-down code of conducts. The PCs want to strip municipalities of the right to govern themselves by imposing province-wide bureaucrat-written codes of conduct. That means Queen's Park, not your community, will decide what your local councillors are allowed to say and do. Number two, new powers to remove elected officials. Under this bill, an unelected provincial appointee could investigate a councillor and recommend their seat be declared vacant. Lisa Robinson should be aware of this as well, our councillor friend in Pickering. Even if they were elected by thousands of local voters, all based on vague subjective criteria like causing harm to well-being. What does that mean exactly? You make somebody cry? Even unintentionally? This is dangerously authoritarian, and it looks like it was written by the Liberals themselves. That's because it was. The Ford PCs are recycling a private member's bill from Liberal MPP Stephen Blaise, a bill the PCs previously voted down for optics. Now they've rebranded and expanded it. This is not conservative leadership. True blue Ontarians believe in limited government, local decision-making, and freedom of speech, not top-down dictates from Queen's Park. The Ontario PCs have made it clear over the last several years that they are an extension of the Federal Liberal Party of Canada. And that was written by Belinda Karahalios of the New Blue Party, who probably should be getting more attention in Ontario, but sadly, people think when they vote PC, they're voting for conservatives, and they're not. The same thing is going to be happening in Manitoba very soon, too. It's my wish that some of these newer parties would start to get notoriety and be able to get the word out to people. But if they don't do it themselves, nobody else is going to do it for them. They have got to do the work themselves, and I believe that was the downfall of the PPC, or was it, actually? Did Maxime Bernier actually intend to win any seats at all? Notice when Pierre Poilievre, when it was found out that he was going to be running in Battle Creek, Crowfoot, in that Alberta riding, that Maxime Bernier came out quite quickly and said, we may run a candidate there against Pierre. He didn't say against the Liberals. He didn't say against the NDP. He said against Pierre. Oh, and by the way, that multi-candidate group, the ones that put 93 names on the ballot in Carleton during the election, they're back at it. They're trying to round up 100 candidates for this by-election, which is coming up. We don't know exactly when, but they're trying to interfere in the electoral process again, of course, involving Pierre Poilievre. Even though they say they're neutral on this, they're just trying to reform Canada's electoral system. This comes from theguardian.com. UK creating, this is like that movie with Tom Cruise called, Minority Report, I think. UK creating murder protection or prediction tool to identify people most likely to kill. What? Algorithms allegedly being used to study data of thousands of people, and project critics say is chilling and dystopian.
The UK government is developing a murder prediction program, which it hopes can use personal data of those known to the authorities to identify the people most likely to become killers. Wrap your head around that one. Pre-crimes. Researchers are alleged to be using algorithms to analyze the information of thousands of people, including victims of crimes, as they try to identify those at greatest risk of committing serious violent offenses. Have you seen any video from the UK of police arresting people who are standing, thinking, and possibly mumbling some words of prayer? Just go look for it. It's readily available on all social media. People just don't pay attention to that stuff and how authoritarian it is. It's insane. This scheme was originally called the Homicide Prediction Project, but its name has been changed to Sharing Data to Improve Risk Assessment. Of course, something dry, something boring, something nobody will suspect is totalitarian. The Ministry of Justice hopes the project will help boost public safety, but campaigners have called it chilling and dystopian. And of course they should. And while we're in Great Britain here, let's look at this one. This is something that has gone mainstream now. I may have brought this up on the show. I'm not sure if I did on the social media part of the show or if it was in the extension last week, but here it is from GBN. Britain to approve £50 million sun dimming experiments in bid to prevent runaway climate change. They're coming out with it. This is something they've been doing for years, according to other experts. Britain is set to approve funding of up to 50 million quid for outdoor experiments to dim sunlight as part of efforts to combat runaway climate change, they say. The Advanced Research and Invention Agency, ARIA, will announce the funded projects within weeks, making Britain one of the world's biggest funders of geoengineering research. Canada does it too. It's on the Government of Canada website. You can go find it yourself. And it's been going on for years. They admit it. Just that none of the left-wing corporate media ever talks about it. They never want to go into it. Why? We're going to talk about Operation Mockingbird in the extension tonight. If you're not a member, an all-access member at shadowdavis.com, tonight's the night you may want to become one. Professor Mark Symes, Area's program director, confirmed there would be small, controlled outdoor experiments on particular approaches. And don't forget as well to join the Shadow at Night community on Telegram. This controversial technology aims to reflect sunlight back into space, potentially providing a temporary break on rising global temperatures while emissions reduction efforts continue. This is absolutely insane. What could possibly go wrong? That is it for the show tonight, you guys. Thank you for being here. I love you all, and I appreciate you all. Don't forget to like and share. Let's get this out to as many people as we possibly can. I would really appreciate it. It helps the show grow, and when the show grows and we get more followers and more likes on all of the different social media platforms like YouTube, we're on YouTube every single night. Well, not every single night. There are nights I can't go on YouTube because of the content that YouTube doesn't like, but that's all right because we're still on Facebook. They seem to be dealing with it well lately for some reason. Why? I don't know. We're definitely on Twitch and on X and on Rumble and on Telegram and, of course, on shadowdavis.com. So please help to grow this show, get better guests, like and share, get it out there to as many people as you possibly can. I love you all, and I appreciate you all, and I will see you again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another one. The extension for you all access Nighthawks begins in 2 minutes. I'll see you soon.